To examine some of the components of the name resolution process in the interface, on my local machine, I'm going to pull up the command prompt. In the command prompt, I'm going to type ping rtsnetworking.com. What that ping will do is take the name rtsnetworking.com, and it's going to pass that name through the resolution process. That name has to be resolved to an IP address before I can actually communicate with it. So I'm going to hit enter. Before I fully depress the enter key, you'll see this IP address in square brackets. That means my computer went through the entire name resolution process that we described in the prior section. It was able to take the name rtsnetworking.com and it resolved that name to this IP address in square brackets. My computer will now temporarily store this in a local cache. If I want to view the local cache, I can type the command ipconfig/display DNS. ipconfig/display DNS. When I hit enter, it shows me the local cache on my machine. Notice rtsnetworking.com is in the cache. That name, the time to live, 3476. That is seconds, so 3,476 seconds. The big things we're looking at here, the record name and the IP address it resolves to. If I run that command again, I'm going to hit the up arrow and recycle that command. Notice it's now at 3446. If I hit the up arrow and recycle that command again, it's at 3440. My computer for the next 3,440 seconds will retain this rtsnetworking.com resolves to this address in its cache. If I go back to the website, my computer will not go through the full process again. It will simply find that in cache. I can also purge this cache. If I run the command ipconfig/flush DNS, it tells me I successfully flushed the DNS resolver cache. If I recycle the commands with the up arrow and go back to ipconfig/display DNS, now it says when I run that command here, it now tells me could not display the DNS resolver cache. What that means to me is there's nothing in cache. I always thought that read like an error message, like there's something wrong or corrupt in cache, but it is not. That simply means there is nothing in cache to display. Anything I resolve by name would then populate cache. When that time to live expires, it would have automatically purged itself. If you reboot your computer, it also purges itself. So when I ran the ipconfig/flush DNS, all we did was expedite the removal of that record. It was going to disappear after those number of seconds had elapsed anyway. On the client machine, the cache was the first thing that we checked. The second thing that's checked is the local host file. I'm going to go to my C drive, Windows, System 32. In System 32, there's a drivers folder, and in that drivers folder, there is an etc folder. Inside of etc, there's a hosts. Now, that does not have an extension on it, the host file. When you double click on it, it always asks you, what do you want to open it with? I'm going to choose Notepad. Any text editor, Notepad, WordPad would be fine. What the host file allows me to do is enter an IP address. I'm going to say 1.2.3.4, a bogus address. And I'm going to type in the name rtsnetworking.com. Now, I am a local administrator on this machine. When I go to File and click Save, notice I am clicking Save, not Save As. But when I click Save, it forces a Save As. A problem in some older operating systems was that this host file was routinely infected with malware. What that did to you as the user, you would be redirected. So you would go to a website like google.com. Your host file may have an infected entry that resolves that to a different IP address. So no matter what website you attempted to go to, you may get directed to some other website. So what Microsoft has done in the client OS, they have restricted the host file. So to edit it, you as a user have to be a local administrator, which I am here, but you also have to use the text editor in administrative mode. What that means to me, if I cancel this since I'm not able to actually save it, and I'll close the host file here, I'm going to go to Start, and I'm just going to type in Notepad. I'm going to right-click Notepad and run as administrator. When I run as administrator, Notepad is now opened in administrative mode. I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to browse that C Windows, System 32, the drivers folder, etc. Right now, this folder appears to be blank. That's because that host file does not have an extension. So I need to change this from txt to all files. Now the host file is present, and I'm just going to click Open. It opens the host file. Now if I enter an address, 1.2.3.4, and we'll enter the name rtsnetworking.com. Now, I know that is a bogus address. That's not the address of rtsnetworking.com. We saw that RTS address earlier, and it started with 23. But now when I save this, so I'll go to File and Save, that is saved. When I go back to the command prompt on my machine, if I run ipconfig/display DNS again, notice it now says rtsnetworking.com resolves to IP address 1.2.3.4. That entry in the host file is permanently populated in the cache. If I run that command again, you'll notice the 74,000. That will continuously tick down, but then it will repopulate itself, and it's always going to be present in the list. It will never expire completely. If I ping rtsnetworking.com, notice it resolves to that address, 1.2.3.4. That's a bogus address, so I now do not get a reply. That means I would not be able to browse the rtsnetworking.com website because I would be redirected to this bogus address. That is one way it is a haven for malware. So Microsoft has taken great security measures to restrict access to this. It's not common that you have a legitimate need for a host file in networks now. This concept is a holdover from the days of Windows NT and the early days of the Windows 2000 operating system. Now let's take a look at some of the settings on the server side.